Alright, welcome back to another video, guys. So today's topic is going to be slightly sensitive, but what we're going to talk about is if rounding your back in a deadlift is okay. Alright, welcome back to another video. I'm JJ from Technique Matters. So today we're going to talk about a slightly, controversial idea or topic in the powerlifting scene, which is rounding of the back okay. So why we think that this is a topic that we want to address is because we think that, a lot of people have certain ideas around the deadlift, and a lot of people think that you need to have this perfectly straight back in order to keep your back safe. But I don't think us here at Technique Matters necessarily believe that, because in order to say that, you need to look at everyone in the world and say that people have 100% never gotten injured with their back totally straight, which is not true. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use this video to sort of give you a good idea of what we think is an acceptable range, and hopefully that can help you to sort of clarify some ideas, as well as give you some assurance that you can actually train your deadlift with a round back to a really high level. And of course, what we're saying here is not medical advice, so we want you to make sure that if you are uncomfortable, please seek advice from a coach who has the necessary experience to help you to find what is an acceptable range for you. If you still have any other questions, feel free to DM us, but we're just going to go into the video and break down some of the ideas around this concept. So right now we're going to go through what the acceptable range is and a few possible scenarios to help you to clean up some of these issues. So what we want to say before we go into this is to make sure that you understand that some people can accept more of a flex position, especially through the upper and mid back, but we also don't want you to go to the opposite extreme of flexing your whole back, mostly because we believe that instead of it always being injurious or being a bad thing or being, we believe that, instead of always being something that gets you injured or a bad position, it's actually just a very inefficient position that makes your progress in the deadlift, very slow, and kind of lowers your ceiling of, where you can actually be and what your potential for the deadlift is. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Adam and Clinton to help you to break down some of the ideas, as well as show you some exercises to clean up that position.
Hi guys, my name is Clinton, and right now I'm gonna show you our recommendations of an acceptable back rounding, okay? So in our context, we believe that our back should always stay in a neutral position, but some people, it's hard for them, maybe due to different reasons, maybe tighter lower body, mobility restrictions and stuff. It is needed for them to be in a more rounded position. So today we're gonna discuss which is an acceptable rounding and what is not acceptable, okay? So let's start off with acceptable range. So I have JJ here. We're just going to demonstrate with the conventional deadlift because we see a lot more people rounding their back in a conventional deadlift, right? Okay, so what is an acceptable range? Basically, an acceptable range of rounding, it means rounding of the upper back, okay? So you look like it's more in a flex position, so JJ will get into a starting position of the deadlift, okay? So you can see that you can flex even more. So you can see that this is sort of jut out, the mid back is sort of flexing. You're not seeing a very straight back, you're seeing a sort of a rounded back. But once it comes to the lower back, right, it stays in a neutral position. This is what we think it is an acceptable range. And based on all the people we have seen pulling very heavy weights with conventional and rounded back, most of the time, their lumbar is in a very neutral position. So JJ, you can show us some repetitions. Yes. So this allows them to have a longer reach, easier for them to reach for the bar, set their hips higher so that they can get their lower body in a more efficient position. All right, so since we are in this topic, if we want to assume a very straight back, can JJ assume a very straight back? If you assume a very straight back, you'll notice that his whole position will change. His hips will need to go lower, and it's very hard to generate force in that position. So now we know that with JJ's leverage, his arm length, and basically a femur length, it is not that ideal for him to pull conventional in an absolute straight back, okay? So now in the next clip, I'm gonna show you what is a not acceptable range in our opinion. Now we're gonna show you the most extreme position that you should never or should not get into, especially if you are going for a deadlift. This is a very obvious position that JJ is gonna demonstrate. It took a lot of time for him to basically maneuver himself in this way so that it's easier for you guys to understand the big difference between acceptable range and non-acceptable range. I mean, if you really want to pull that way, later JJ will show you, if you really want to pull that way, it's definitely okay for you. But in our opinion, I feel that it's a very high chance for you to get injured, because there's no point doing a sport to get injured, right? Okay, now, so JJ, work your magic, show them. Okay, so this is basically a very non-acceptable range. Flexing of the thoracic is fine, but flexing of the lumbar as well. So what you are seeing is a big round prawn over here, okay? So if JJ were to pull in this position, he will feel a lot of stress, not just on the mid back, as well as on the lower back, okay? Okay, 1 rep will do, thank you. Okay, just by performing this movement that JJ did is already very dangerous, which will affect his training probably for his next few weeks. But we are just here to basically show you what is the acceptable and non-acceptable range. Okay, so most of the time this rounding of the back will usually happen to those smaller people with less muscular structure. In our opinion, in order for you to progress in the deadlift and in the sport of powerlifting, it is needed for you to not just be technically efficient, or you think you are technically efficient. It is also very important to strengthen up and build up more muscular structure, because ultimately muscles move weights, right? So right now Adam is going to show you some of the exercises that we recommend you to do, so that we can sort of strengthen up that back, the whole back, and then you can get yourself in a much more efficient and stronger position, so that you can progress higher in the movement of the deadlift.
What's up everyone, Adam here from Technique Matters, and I'm going to go through with you 3 exercises to help improve the backgrounding in the conventional deadlift. So the first one I'm going to go through is the controlled tempo touch and go deadlift, obviously in the conventional stance. So I'm going to show you how to do it using JJ to help demonstrate. I haven't told JJ how to do the exercise yet, so I'm going to go through it with him now. So JJ, you'll just pull the conventional deadlift normally. And then once you get up to the top, just like any tempo deadlift, take your breath at the top and control the eccentric down, but it doesn't have to be a specific time. Okay. It just needs to be a controlled tempo, and then lightly touch the ground and then come back up and maintain that back position. What I want you to do is 4 reps. So the intention here is to maintain this back position throughout the whole exercise. Okay, come down, you can speed it up a little bit, lightly touch the ground, come back up. And this is just controlling that back through this eccentric movement. And this will help with the positioning off the floor as well, and help strengthen this position, this back in the deadlift. And then just one more, come down, lightly touch, and then up. Cool. Down, control it down, good, thank you. So there you go, just the controlled touch and go deadlift helps you to get into that position in a conventional deadlift and helps strengthen that position as well. Okay, the second exercise is the Romanian deadlift. Typically you'll see people pulling or starting the Romanian deadlift off a rack, they'll walk it out. We don't have the facilities here to do that. So the solution for that is just to pull it like you normally do as a conventional deadlift, and you're gonna start the exercise from the top. The exercise should start from the top anyway, even if you're gonna pull it off the rack. So JJ, just pull the bar off the floor, and then from here, what JJ is gonna do is gonna set his brace, and then just think of soft knees and push your hips back, and then just come down as far as you can until you can maintain that position. If you can go all the way down and touch the ground, then that's good. And then you just want to really strengthen or really work on this positioning here on the Romanian deadlift. Okay, have a rest. What we don't want to do is start to compromise that position throughout the movement. We really want to do this movement with intention. If you're going to start to do the exercise with a rounded back, then you completely miss the point. So be really strict with yourself, really film yourself from the side. Same thing with the touch and go deadlifts, film it from the side and make sure you're maintaining that position. As soon as you lose that position, you're losing the benefits from the exercise. All right, the third solution. This is quite mind-blowing, and not many people know about this one. What to do is just like JJ, you get in the position here, and then just bring your legs out. into a sumo deadlift. Okay, so what this exercise does, if you can do it, if you have the hip mobility to do it, all jokes aside, what you can see here, you see that JJ's hips are here. The distance between the bar and JJ's hips are shorter as they would be in a conventional. So set up in the conventional for me. See that the hips are further back. So what this does, creates a longer leverage here from the hip. So what we want to do is just shorten that range by going into a sumo stance and decreasing the load through the back and rely more on the quads and the hips. If you can get into the sumo position and you find that your sumo is weaker than your conventional, don't freak out, because it would just take some time to get stronger in that movement. For me, my experience, I pulled conventional for many years before I started pulling sumo, and my conventional was stronger, but eventually after a few years pulling sumo, my sumo's much stronger than my conventional. I don't think I could pull the numbers now with my conventional without my back rounding. So just really take your time with it, it's part of the process. So again, this is all our recommendations to how to improve upper back rounding or back rounding in the conventional deadlift. Again, this is the sport of powerlifting, so we want to lift the most weight as possible. If you start to round your back a little bit to lift a little bit more weight, then so be it, as long as it's safe and it's not hurting you, as long as it's not overly excessive either. Trying to maintain a straight back throughout your training and pulling back the load to have the most perfect straight back is not going to get you extra kilos on the platform. So, and you're not going to get judged for extremely straight back in competition either. So remember, it's a sport of powerlifting. We want to lift the most weight and we want to do it in the most safe manner as possible so we can have longevity in the sport. All right, guys, so if you enjoyed this video, please share it. Remember to like, subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you next week.